Hey guys, this is Comic Uno and Comic Frontline, and today I'm doing Comic Uno episode 206. In this show, we review all the comics I read this week in one show. So let's get started. We go worst pick of the week, we go to best pick of the week, and everything in between. This week was a short week. It's the fifth Wednesday in the month, so that's why it's a bit shorter. We got 14 books to talk about. So number 14 is Supergirl Annual, issue 1. I didn't actually get a lot of DC books this week because there weren't a lot in general out. But yeah, Supergirl, I haven't been really enjoying this title that much, and it kind of continues of what I haven't been liking about the title, which is Supergirl doesn't really have a personality here. They try to stick elements to make her have a personality, but it just doesn't work here, especially with our family dynamic here. I feel like what's really the problem with this annual, it seems like, things have been building up and, character development has been building up in this series, that there would be this explosive finale of all these villains going up against Supergirl and her teaming up with with her family, but it doesn't work here because there wasn't that build up. So it's just kind of everything's thrown at you. There's too many characters here. Still don't love the coloring and the dampness of the book, even though I think the artwork's got a little bit better, but overall, still not loving this book, so I'm going to give this one 2 stars. Now, moving on to number 13, which is Jean Grey, issue 6. So, Jean, honestly, the artwork was a big problem for me. A lot of times, the artwork was out of proportion. Like, look at Jean here. She looks skinny at one moment. Their mouths look really weird and bigger than their faces. So I just did not really like the artwork here. I just thought it was very inconsistent. And the story it's just repetitive. It's things we've seen before. If you're a huge Doctor Strange fan, you might enjoy this one, but I didn't think this team up was as good as the Psylocke one and the ones that we got in the past that kind of fit more to her Phoenix storyline. Even though we get to see Jean look at her past self, it's very repetitive to the past generations issue we just got a couple of weeks ago. So Jean Grey issue 6 for me gets 2.5 stars. Moving on to number 12, which is Wonder Woman issue 29. There's some good moments here, but mostly it's just action-packed and not a lot of story. I like the Steve and Diana moments the most, but everything else is like going through the motions just to get to this government-esque part in the end. So, not my favorite issue of Wonder Woman. I like it more about the character interactions like we've seen in the past with Etta and Diana and Steve. We just didn't get that as much with this issue. So Wonder Woman issue 29 gets 2.5 stars, and that is number 12. Moving on to number 11, which is Your Pal Archie issue 2, which is more of a simplistic, going back to basics Archie book, but also the style is a bit more modernized, which I do like, and we get to see more characters a bit modernized here. And we get to see the lottery ticket storyline end in a silly way, and then we get half the story with Reggie, like, forgetting his memories and, like, being a good guy, and that's it. That's the end. So I feel like it's kind of weird the way they segment these issues, where they have this cliffhanger and then they continue it and you have 2 stories in one. I know that's kind of like classic Archie, but usually they finish the storyline in classic Archie. So I think the structure is a little weird, and obviously it's a bit more slice of life compared to Archie, the regular book, and all the other titles. So I think it needs to find a bit of ground to make me want to pick this up more as someone who's more of a fan of the modern Archie stuff than the classic Archie, but it definitely has its place more for the Reader Digest readers. So I'm going to give this 3 stars though. It wasn't bad, just wanted a little bit more with it. Alright, now we're moving on to number 10, which is X-Men Blue issue 10. So issue 10 is number 10. I just feel like they were trying to fit a little bit too much with this issue. You have the Beast storyline, you have Iceman, you got Jean and Scott, you got Magneto and his daughter. A lot of story they're trying to fit in here. But I think the strongest one is definitely Jean and Scott. Them sharing their heads right now, really. They're in each other's heads. And, Scott being a little jealous that Jean thinks Jimmy's cute. But there is this moment where you're like, oh, well, they're going to get together, because Jean just says, I don't love them. They're cute. Sure, all our teammates are cute, but it doesn't mean I love them. So that was an interesting interaction. And then we lead into an interesting Beast cliffhanger where his magic kind of gets a hold of him and he's teaming up with some interesting people. But the Iceman and Magneto stuff I thought were a little bit slower, and even the Jimmy Hudson stuff, I totally forgot about that one, even though I did like that this the sheriff was back. I like her character. But you see, there's so much stuff going on in this issue, it's hard to appreciate each story. So X-Men Blue issue 10 gets 3 stars, and that is number 10. Moving on to number 9, which is Secret Empire issue 10. Actually, I thought this was one of the best issues of Secret Empire. I'm still not blown away by it. You know, the things that happen are predictable, but I like that it kind of brings hope back to the Marvel Universe with the real Captain America coming to punch Hydra Captain America. And you see, you know, this event still meant something. Things happen. Black Widow's still dead, but we're going into a more positive direction, and I like that aspect of it. So Secret Empire issue 10 gets 3.5 stars, and I think this is a better issue compared to the previous ones. Now moving on to number 8, which I wish was a little higher, but it was a slower issue, and that was Black Magick issue 7. Still gorgeous artwork. I love Nicola Scott's artwork here, and the noir feel, the black and white, but then this kind of fantastical coloring with the magic really works for this book. I love the artwork for here, but story's a bit slow. It's Morgan, who is Rowan's partner, you know, kind of getting closer to summons up with Rowan, and then Rowan teaming up with Alex, and we learn as an audience a bit more about the spell making of this book. But again, very slow burn, not a lot of stuff happened here, but it is just us as an audience jumping back into this story, because last issue, which was 2 months ago, was more about the past of Rowan, and then previously before that, Rucka and Scott were on Wonder Woman, so we didn't really get a Black Magick book for a couple of months. So we're just kind of jumping into things, so I forgive it on that aspect, but still want the story to pick up a little bit more. So Black Magick issue 7 gets 3.5 stars. Moving on to number 7, which is The Normals issue 4. A very solid issue where we finally get the family to find out that they are robots, and they react to that. And it's also our main character saying, alright, well now we gotta save all the other robots, and they figure out one of the robots who they are, and they kind of go in that direction, but people are dying. So what happens there? Who's behind all of that? So the mystery of, you know, how this is all possible with these robots is unraveling a bit. Very interesting concept, and I do enjoy the family's interaction here. So The Normals issue 4 gets a solid 4 stars. Moving on to number 6, which is Saga issue 46. Wow, these numbers are interesting. 646. Yeah, this is a solid issue overall. Definitely like the interactions between Hazel and her brother, and her, even though at a young age, being able to let go and knowing that he wasn't real and part of Magick. And then I like, you know, I'm new to it, so the television person and the other woman who kind of start a romantic relationship by the end through the tension of their conversations. So I thought that was interesting. And then, of course, our main characters, Marco and Lana, you know, figuring out how to help Alana, because now that their baby died, that baby is letting off magic and is killing Alana. So some interesting stuff happening here. It's a slower burn, but there is some good character moments. So Saga issue 46 gets 4 stars, and that is number 6. Moving on to number 5, which is Generations Hawkeye and Hawkeye issue 1, which was a fun issue. I will say the mystery of who's behind this Hunger Games-esque storyline could have been paced a little bit better, I think, because they had to stretch it out because it was a longer one-shot. But what was fun and what was needed was Hawkeye and Hawkeye, their interaction, Clint and Kate, and that's what really sold me on this issue. It's fun, and it's cool to see how similar they are, even though Kate doesn't really think so in the beginning. But then she realizes, you know what, that's why we're friends, because we are similar in that way. So she kind of looks up to Clint, where usually she's putting him down in a joking manner, but she kind of has some nice stuff to say about Clint in this issue. So Generations Hawkeye and Hawkeye issue 1 gets a solid 4 stars, and that is number 5. Moving on to number 4, which is Crosswind issue 3. Been loving this title. Love, love, love the artwork by Kat Staggs here. We really get to see the personalities of Juniper and Kaysen how they switch bodies. You really get to see their different personalities and how they react differently to things through the artwork. And here it's Kaysen being Juniper, trying to make this dinner for her husband's boss. And you know, Kaysen obviously deals with it in a different way and is becoming more of the leader of the household. And then Juniper is figuring out, oh, now that I'm this guy, I'm this assassin and have power, I actually could do things in my life. So you're seeing how they react to each other's lives. And I really like the personality that Gail Simone and Staggs really brings to these characters. And it's definitely building up some interesting dynamics here. So Crosswind issue 3 gets a solid 4 stars, and that is number 4. Moving on to number 3, which is the last issue of Ladykiller 2, issue 5. So this is, once again, a mini-series. Hopefully we get a 3rd volume of this, because here we get to see Josie go up against Irving and trying to protect her family. And her family finds out that she's pretty much an assassin, and her husband leaves her. And by the end, she's alone again. And I love this line because there's this opener where we see Josie and her mom, and how Josie pretty much ended up the way she is. And her mother says, "You're nobody. You're poor, you're a woman, you're nobody. But because of that, you can be a somebody. You can be a survivor." So it's interesting how she's still a survivor in the end, but she doesn't have anybody in her life. So, and also we have a character that was from the first volume show up again in the end. So hopefully we get a 3rd volume. That's kind of the disappointing part, is that as much as I like how much Josie has changed in the end of this book, it's changes the premise completely. So how is that going to look in another volume? And will we get another volume? So ending it on a cliffhanger, I don't know how to feel about that. But I love the action here, and it's still, you know, this person you wouldn't expect to be an assassin trying to kill this guy. And I love that. Joelle Jones does a great job at the artwork, the script. Like, look at this, like this kind of chase of cat and mouse in this book. Some awesome action sequences here, but some great characterization for Josie too. So overall, I'm going to give Ladykiller 2 issue 5 4 stars, and that's number 3. Moving on to number 2, which is Spider-Gwen issue 23. Love this cover. Finally, Spider-Gwen back on top 5. But I really like this because it goes back to the fun of Spider-Gwen and actually leaving Spider-Gwen completely out of this issue. And it's in Mary Jane's point of view, where Mary Jane is selfish, and she kind of is learning that. She's learning that she's a selfish person, and we see throughout her life, like the way Liz Allen's not friends with her anymore, the way that Glory wants to quit the band, the way that Gwen's gone, and she's realizing, alright, I need to be a better person. So she helps out Betty in the end. She's badass and beats up this guy that's antagonizing them. And also, in the beginning of the issue, she's, you know, obviously knows that Gwen is Spider-Woman, and no one believes her, but she knows it. She's not letting that down. And she says, oh, you know, Gwen's not going to be here because she's Spider-Woman, and she's going to, you know, she's wrecking this gig. But by the end, it's not about the gig. She's like, hey, you know, keeping your space warm, be safe. And it's more about her friendship with Gwen and how she cares about her as a person instead of just their drummer. So I really enjoyed this. It was a big character growth for Mary Jane, and hopefully Mary Jane will be implanted into Gwen's storyline soon. But it's a nice lightness to getting into the darkness of the Gwenom storyline for the next issue. So really enjoyed this one. I like the cartoony feel too, kind of like had a Daria feel to me, especially with like kind of the music influence of the books. I enjoyed this one. So Spider-Gwen issue 23 gets 4.5 stars. Moving on to my pick of the week, and this was an obvious pick for me. And that was Go Go Power Rangers issue 2. Once again, my pick of the week. I've been loving this book. But there's so much good character development here. I love the back and forth between Matt and Kimberly. So we get to see how Matt and Kimberly met and how they became the romantic relationship they have and like the perfect couple they became. But now that Kimberly's a Power Ranger, she's hiding things and she's becoming closer friends to Matt's friends, and Matt's feeling left out. So I like how that relationship is changing and how the other Power Rangers didn't even like Kimberly in the beginning. So I really enjoyed that reveal. But also you get some other interesting dynamics too, like Trini and Jason actually interacting with each other. In the show, that rarely happened. That wasn't a dynamic we usually saw. So now it's Trini and Jason like practicing their moves, and also Trini having a bit of a crush on Jason, so that was cool. And then other characters kind of being smarter than they were on the show and being more interesting, like Bulk and Skull. They're not just a comedic relief here, but instead, they're the characters that are questioning, hey, there's aliens out there, why does this matter anymore? So Angel Grove is actually questioning about aliens and dealing with the situations of, how about if the Power Rangers are real? You know, it's more than them just running away from aliens and then, you know, doing their day at the end. It's like, no, this is affecting them as people. So I like that. And also Rita's becoming a smarter villain too. She's not just the cackling villain of, oh, I'll get those Power Rangers next time and do the same exact thing next episode. Instead, she's learning a bit more about their names, learning more about them as people and targeting them not as just the Power Rangers, but as the teenagers they are. So very interesting stuff here. I love that it adds more depth to the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers franchise, and I just love where it's going. Artwork is gorgeous for this too. I love the facial expressions, the action, especially the emotional moments. Like that opener, the comedy there of the awkward date between Matthew and Kimberly was golden. Just had a blast with this one. So Go-Go Power Rangers issue 2 gets 4.5 stars. Only nitpick is that I kind of wish we got a little bit more from the Rita cliffhanger, but that really was the only nitpick from this one. But hopefully you guys enjoyed. This is Comic Uno. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter. Don't forget to like my Facebook page. Also, description below, there are links to my comic book, Like Father, Like Daughter. And don't forget to like the Facebook page of Like Father, Like Daughter. And I'll see you guys later. Bye.